Alright, so I'm laggy. I think it's my computer. I'm hoping it's my computer. But hey, champions, we are live. I'm wondering if it's my camera again. I'm gonna try turning off my camera and see if that fixes my computer a little bit. It looks like it does.
You look good this way. Look,
yeah, I know.
Great little picture of you.
This is how Jeff sees me. Yeah, that great way to start things off. I don't know why. I think it's because the office is so warm, and that's why my computer maybe just overheating, or because it's running all day and I just never give it a break. So, for one reason or another, my computer is lagging. Hey, how are you two doing?
A little hot.
Yeah, right?
A little hot all of a sudden.
I have a sweater on because I'm in my basement and it's freezing.
Well, I'm feeling like taking my shirt off. I don't think the stream would like that.
Let's save that for after the stream. That's the after show. We might have to get you an animated face too if we're gonna do that.
Yeah, Jeff's calling me out for my computer failing. I don't know why. My computer was doing well like a few weeks ago, and just more recently, I think in the past month or so, it's been having some issues. I'm probably just working way too much. I think that's the bigger issue. All right, so we're restructuring how we're approaching exploring the libraries, and doing things a little bit differently on this show. So to start it off, the idea here, we're going to be tackling bigger topics. So not so much Q&A, like short question and answers, but trying to tackle larger questions. And I think we have some really cool ones today. I'm really excited about getting into those. But if you do have some smaller questions or some other things that are on your mind, we're going to start doing like Q&A blog posts where once we got 10 questions coming in from the community, we'll write a little blog and post it up onto our website and answer those questions. So it'll be right there, it'll be written out, and you'll have all those answers. So thank you. As so many people joined us. Hi, everyone. We've got Awesome Wasim and Jeff Pacito, Damien, Scheming Skeleton, Jason, Tyler, Tavern Brawlers have joined us. Huge community, so very grateful for everyone who came out. All right, we're going to start off our Exploring the Libraries like we do every week with what you've been playing. Going over recent gameplay stories and anecdotes. Are we live? Is it just me?
Are we on the internet?
OBS and everything says we're good.
Out our existence. I'm opening Twitch.
Yeah.
I think the chat's just trolling. Chat's trolling us.
Oh, I hate Twitch ads.
Yeah. I would love to know if things are
YouTube's
live.
working.
Yeah, it's live on YouTube?
Our screens are frozen, but the sound is... screens aren't moving, or they're moving very slowly. Sound's working, though.
Sound's working? Yeah, like everything on my end for OBS says it's fine.
Oh.
Yeah,
Plow ahead.
Yeah. All right, this is going to be more like a podcast than a live stream. So, yeah, yay. All right, Alex, tell us about what you've been playing.
Since you guys missed 2 weeks, so I'll catch you up on. I wasn't here the week before. So this week we ended up doing Sealed at the store.
Nice.
And I played some Iblis. Did pretty well. Despite Jason saying he played Iblis in the draft, I think I had heads or tails on Saturday and said it didn't go so well. I don't know, it worked pretty well for me.
Ready? You ready for this hot take?
All right, I'm
hot
ready.
take time. Ready?
Yeah.
Iblis.
Yeah.
Is Origins Odara.
Oh, that's pretty evil. That's pretty evil.
That's a pretty hot take. People just don't understand. You gotta lean into it. Every game, turn one, I spent all 80 aura on summons. Play the rest of the game, no aura.
Sure. Yeah. And then you get wiped out by everything.
It didn't happen once. Not to me.
I will attest that I will agree that Iblis in limited setting is phenomenal. Constructed, on the other hand, oh man, it's a Dara all over again. What do you do with her?
Everything.
I mean, we've tried the beckon, the break builds. We've tried. Alex, I'm so far down the list of builds. I'm at squirrels. Iblis squirrels.
Nice. Interesting. Fair enough. I'll take your word for now, but I haven't seen such things in testing.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's so interesting with just the aura and also the fact that I think Heads or Tails is just exploring some of the fatigue, and Iblis just gets hit hard by fatigue.
For sure, I would agree to that. And then the week before, I built a Kareen deck. I rolled D12 to see which champion I'd play. Rolled Kareen, cracked 2 boxes, made a deck out of it. People I played against were annoyed at me because they said they were upset that I beat them without using readjust once.
You don't have to.
You don't need to.
With them.
Yeah, and that's what I said is tempo of the game. I'd rather have the summons down on the board in most games.
Mm-hmm.
How fast are your games ending?
I lost my headset there for a second.
How many rounds are your
we
games?
Doing this? Are we now touching our heads now?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even do that.
Sorry, that's what you said there, Will. But those are my games.
How long are your games lasting?
Not too long. I would say the 5-6 rounds.
Okay.
Oh wow, that's long. We're hitting 3-4.
Really?
Yeah. Or at least that seems not in sealed. Again, this is constructed.
Yeah.
But within sealed, it's much longer. But
now, how many constructed events have you played with the Origin stuff? Are you still?
So personally, I haven't played any constructed events yet. But this is from what I've been hearing with other people playing. From the Heads or Tails community, at least, it's been pushing 4 turns seems to be pretty much game in hand.
I will honestly say I'm not
4
surprised because usually when a new set comes out, people test out all the flashy damage things, but don't bother to test out the defensive things.
That's true.
So there's probably 2 decks going raw damage or raw cool things, and just going right at each other. Read my predictions.
For sure. I think there's a lot of that. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell us about some of the games you've been playing.
I just did we did a draft on Saturday. So some more limited. And I was trying to force Kasha just to sort of see the 140 with the chaos, the strength of chaos, and some of the smaller sort of 4 cheat cards of Bellum. But it was tough. It didn't work out very well. It wasn't. It was not the best limited deck I've ever played. Ended up actually, in the end, this was the first time I've ever actually had to borrow or bring in some 3-chi. What do we use? Right hooks, whatever. Because it just didn't work out the way that I wanted to. The deck there was just too much high end. There was not enough low end, or the low end got picked up before in my colors, and so it was different. Cash is slow. Really needs good support on board, and if you don't have that in hand, then she's pretty much dead in the water.
Yeah.
Again, she doesn't really have the movements. I had some blowaways, and I had some stuff like that to kind of control sort of damage coming in the front, but just her slow drain. I ran into some Sarahs. The Sarah had has the swift drain. Someone drops a caustic millipede turn 1, and you can't take care of it before it hits you. All those things sort of hurt, right? So The only deck that I did beat was, oddly enough, was a sheer deck that wasn't running any summons. So it's just sort of a. So I had the summons in that game, and was able to sort of capitalize, but still lots of things to be figured out. I do think that the, Bellum Thymos is still very strong if built sort of as more balanced, but
yeah.
There's definitely some interesting Chaos Phage build. Like the Sarah build is actually quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the good high-end Phage stuff, then your lower-end Chaos stuff can sort of balance. But the one Sarah deck built on Saturday was maybe like 2 Phage summons, and all the rest was Jalara summons. Bears, Pixies. And Pixies with Sarah is actually pretty scary, because especially if you can't kill that Pixie right away, and it starts killing other things, like it just starts gaining health and you can't target it. So Pixie's a good limited card.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It can't be targeted at all, or can't be targeted by attack abilities?
Can't be targeted at all.
Oh wow, yeah, that would that would hurt in limited.
And then it starts gaining, and then it gains Carrion Feast, right? So.
Oh.
Nasty.
Nice. I want to play limited. I did the one limited game against Alex and got decimated, and I haven't had a chance to redeem myself at all since. But hopefully soon I'll get the opportunity to draft. It'll be really fun. Yeah. On my side, I got the opportunity to go to North of Exile on Saturday for their 5-year anniversary. It was super fun. Congratulations to James and the North of Exile team for getting things going. Now, a side story to this all. I'm really happy with meeting the community and seeing how things went, because Jason's someone who took a huge risk on us, because when he heard about the game, it was, I want to say April, right after the pandemic, like right after everything shut down. He heard about the game and bought a bunch of inventory at that time. Welcome to Jalara, beta stuff. And like he couldn't play the game. He didn't know anything about it. He saw it. He was excited. He jumped in, and he kept on trying to build communities whenever there were times where things opened up. But it was always like, he builds a community, it shuts down again, he loses the community. He builds it again, shuts down, loses it. And he, despite all those challenges, he kept on trying, kept on going at it. And now he's at a point where, since things have been open for a while, he got a small little group of 4 or 5 people going. The moment they got Origins out there and people started seeing the larger card pool, the community just started growing a lot. And it was 8 people who were out there when I was. And they were like, yeah, this is still only part of the community. These are all the new people getting into the game. We used to have older players who are getting into the game as well. Who have been playing for a little while. So it's anywhere from 12 to 14 people out there who are playing. And wow. It makes me really happy that he believed in us so much that he kept on carrying the game and promoting it. So thank you to North of Exile. The games I played, so I ran a Rain Warp deck, and it was just so much fun. The only non-Swift cards I had in my deck were Tsunamis. Everything else was some form of Warp or Evasion. Otins, Backstabs, Chronos as additional evasion, a lot of Warp. Warping Strike, Water Warp. I found I do not like Warping Sweep as much. The Warp, 4 damage Warp. Because I always was like, I want the second work. If I'm going to play this, I want to make sure I warp the second time. And I never found that opportunity to warp the second time. So I may downgrade those down to Warping Strike, the 3 damage. Warp and 3 damage. That was super useful. I wish I had more of those. Water Warp was phenomenal.
Water Warp is scary.
Yeah, it is so good. And it was really awesome being Rain. Turn 1, I take 2 steps forward, so I'm in the middle of the board. And because I'm in the middle of the board, they just can't touch me anymore. I can evade to the left and right with Otin, evade back with Backstab, Warp if anyone's close to my front. And I just kept on hitting for the 3. And in one situation, finally, my opponent was like, all right, I got to build a wall. So he built a wall that I couldn't walk through all his summons. Right. And I was like, all right, and I Living Shadowed right behind him. I was like, all right, let's do this. Playing with the Rain was so much fun, and it was so great playing with the Rain evasive deck again. So I had a blast.
Right.
Everyone I played against was playing. The first 3 games I played against, I started the exact same way, even though they're all different champions. And that was the Lava Rider and then the Blood Rakasha. Every single game, they would drop those down. The community up there was so used to everyone playing heavy aggro summon decks. Like heavy aggro summon decks. And so when I came in with the super evasive deck that made the games go from like 2-3 rounds to like 8-9 rounds, like I don't know how to play this long. So it really kind of threw them off. It was great. But then a lot of people like wanted my deck list so that they can rebuild that deck. So hopefully that community sees some more diversity up there. It'd be really cool.
It's funny that you said you don't like Warping Sweep. So I talked to one of those people you played against.
Yeah.
And he was all crazy about, oh my gosh, Warping Sweep. Sid did so much amazing things with it.
And when I did play it, it was really good. But there's so many times where I held on to it. There's one game where I had 3 of them in hand. I'm like, there's just no good opportunity to play these. It comes back to that issue with Genesis because everything is a permanent cost. There's no way to recuperate resources. So if you're gonna play something, you want to get your biggest bang for your buck. And for Warping Sweep, it's the warp, damage, and warp. You need the second warp to go off to really get use out of it. But I did have a fun moment where I went to go do Water Warp. My opponent tried to Chrono Walker out of it, so I Chrono Walkered in response to stay in pace with them. And they're like, wait, you can do that? I'm like, yep. And that was fun. So those are some of my stories. Yeah,
Nice.
Loving the origin stuff. It makes it so much harder to make decisions now because you don't have the card pool just memorized anymore. There's so many outs your opponent can have. So I'm loving having the origins card pool. Yeah. So I saw in chat people have caught up. It looks like the video and audio is going, but I think they're just a few minutes behind us. There might be a significant lag. But before we jump into the other topic, going back a little bit, what I was saying at the beginning of the stream, the changes to exploring the libraries. So we're going to be moving away from just a Q&A type of thing with exploring the libraries and more just higher philosophical topics. So Will had this really cool idea of breaking down exploring the libraries into 2 more areas. One, which is, I don't know if your intention was to have a section called Mechanic Moments. And then having another one, which would be the topic for the show. But that's what we've got right now. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, this is where we're gonna move to with exploring the libraries, and we will have. If you have smaller kind of Q&A questions, we'll start gathering those up and answer them on the website on a regular basis instead of during exploring the libraries. So our question for a mechanic moment is first player always going first. So Will, did you have this as like a debatable topic, or like you just want to get everyone's opinion on that, right?
Yeah, I think that's so it was posted to the Discord server. You know, the question was, why does the first player not alternate? Why does the first player always get to go first? As far as like sort of like a philosophical, like,
yeah,
why was that decision made? So yeah, that's sort of, yeah. So this section is basically just a spot where we can talk about a mechanic of the game, or we can focus on something that we thought was really cool or something we found.
I love it.
Or if questions are posed about mechanical things, we can talk about that here as well. So I guess just to get out at the front, it'd be, you know, why was the decision to not alternate who goes first each round made?
All right, so I could talk about, of course, why I made that decision. I think both of you should answer like more on your feeling after playing the game. So before we jump into that, just very quickly, yes or no, have either of you tried the game where you alternated who goes first?
I believe I did.
Yeah?
I have never. To be honest, it's a weird, I don't know a game. I'm trying to think of a game off the top of my head where there's rounds and you alternate who goes first each round, because it's basically you're double turning every other turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that works.
That's my feelings of it. It takes the game from being a player activates and then you get to respond to being like a player activates and then you take 2 turns. It's just a setup turn and a kill turn.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could see it if there was no defense or no response in defense. Like I could see that where like, okay, my attack just gets a free, like my summon just gets a free attack on your summon. Your summon doesn't get to respond back. If the gameplay was that way, then yeah, it would make sense to have alternating turns where I could then attack yours for free.
Yeah.
But because like everything gets a chance to respond, if able to, going second, you can place and position yourself so that there are no good attacks the beginning round.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are way deeper reasonings than why it actually happened. So, one thing to keep in mind, when I started designing this entire engine, I was really young, right? I was like, I don't know, 19, 20? Like, I was very early on in the game design process. But I had been designing TCGs since I was 14, 15. So at least 4 or 5 years under my belt before I started designing the actual tactical TCG. And one thing I realized in all that time was make a decision and build the game around it. So we just made that decision that whoever's going first stays going first. And everything else in the game was built around it. Now, if we had chosen the other route of like alternating who goes first, then we could have just built a bunch of cards that would have functioned better for that system. The cards we've designed now function for this system. So at the end of the day, the hard answer of why it works this way is this. But some of the more subconscious things that were decided, one is a big influence of Genesis is overpower. And that's how overpower worked. Overpower worked in rounds and turns. The round started with everyone drawing 7 cards. Then you both played out card by card until you're down to 0 cards. Once both players were down to 0 cards, that was the end of the round, and then you started a new round by drawing 7 cards. And the person who started, they had a system of like whoever won the round got to start the next round, but that was just really complicated. And I played a lot of games where it's just whoever started the round starts the round. And then also another big influence of the game was chess. And in chess, you go first, you're going first, right? So it made those decisions make more sense. You could not take Genesis the way it is today and change the process, right? You couldn't make it that the person who's going first, you alternate who goes first, because just so many of the cards, so many of the mechanics, the way Swift works, the game would function so differently, and it wouldn't.
I'm thinking like Blitz, right? Like Blitz summons, if you would always go second then, because your Blitz summon would get to act and then get to act again because you'd be going first the next round.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the follow-up question would be then, in games where a player goes first and there is a inherited bit of advantage by going first, that person in card game spaces tends not to draw.
Yeah.
But the draw happens simultaneously for both players. Mm-hmm. Was that ever a consideration?
That one actually was. We did try different things. We did look around it. What we found, and this was actually something that a game designer came up to me and was like, hey, if you have questions about this, you should be running some A/B testing. So one of the things we actually tested is we hosted a tournament. We got a lot of people who were in the early phases of playtesting. This was alpha, but before the full 90 cards were released, so when it was just the starter kits. And we had a lot of people playtesting, and then we had other people who were testing with the full card list, and we found that the person who went second usually had a slightly higher advantage. The game favored the person who was going second more often than not. And for that reason, we found that in the long run, it'll balance out to be about 50-50. It comes down to your style as a player. And it's the same thing in chess, right? Just because you're playing first doesn't mean you always win every game of chess. The game isn't innately in your favor. You just have to play differently if you're going second. And that's what we wanted to lean on more, was for players to like figure out how, like, if you take your deck and like, well, it works really well when I'm going first, well then you have to figure out with the same card pool or with your forethought sideboard changes how to still be advantageous when going second, right? That was my thought processing. That was the testing I did, and it seems to be working. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there, but it also means that certain decks just always needs to go. Don't always work, right? That was the thing about the what's the one that exerts everyone from beta?
Landslide.
No, the Axon one.
Trudge?
Trudge, yeah. That's where the Trudge deck kind of just failed. Was like, it would work really well if it was going first. If it was going second, not as much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a good thing.
Malefic Impalement sort of does that as well. You kind of you have to build your deck knowing that. Basically, that's why I would consider Malefic Impalement a great sort of summon-based strategy card as an energy cost, because you know you're going to have summons on the board, so therefore you can always have something else to activate, so you can use your Malefic Impalement if you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what are your feelings, Alex? You're now taking over a lot of the lead design stuff. How does it feel inheriting these decisions that I made on the game?
I cry myself to sleep.
Oh, that sounds about right. You work with me, of course you're going to cry yourself to sleep. Everyone else does. How's it going, Joey? No, honestly though, what do you think of it?
About what specifically? That it's
like
going...
does how in other games a person going first has a disadvantage and like gets the whole time can't draw thing, right?
No, so I don't necessarily believe in. I see a lot of people think going first is the best, and it is so dependent on your deck and the play style. If you're facing summon deck for summon deck, your opponent plays a bunch of summons, and then because you went second, you just get to take them out.
Yeah.
Because they played. Declaring that going first just wins is not a true statement.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things that is very different in Genesis than it is in other TCGs, in my experience.
For sure.
Not just TCGs, other strategy games. Going first, going second in Genesis feels a little bit different. But, cool. Are we good on that topic?
I believe so.
Yeah? All right.
I think the person just was wondering why. And
Yeah.
I think that sort of answers that.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's very interesting to see where the game has come.
All right. We are at the 30-minute mark, but I don't know when people are catching up because it seems like they're just answering the question of what that Axon card was. So they're a little bit behind. But our big topic for tonight that we'll spend the rest of the time talking about is collectability and Haunted Castle Gaming's perspective on new players versus old. Collectability is definitely a big topic that I spend a lot of time thinking about. I talked to a lot of people about it. So yeah, I think this would be a fun thing to jump into. Who wants to start on their field?
I'll start with a question.
Okay, go for it.
Says that in Origins, there was technically Origins Kickstarter, we had a lot of collectability.
Yes. One
One was the box toppers. One was we introduced secrets that we can officially talk about finally.
Yeah. Yes.
So those two things are collectible items. I don't think we've said that we're are or not continuing secrets. I'll let that out of the bag. We're continuing secrets, at least with retail.
Yeah.
There's technically also box toppers with retail, but they are different. They are not the Kickstarter box toppers. I don't know if we specifically said that.
Yeah, it's in that
has been
article.
announced, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna read stuff that you wrote, Sid.
Yeah. That's fair. Even though I get you to proofread it all before I send it out. But okay, fine. Good to know you're not doing your job.
So the question was, I think, more to Will. Do you think there is more collectability in Origins than past sets?
Well, I think you just stated that you
Yeah,
have
that's kind of a
added it in,
loaded question.
so-
That was a little bit of a leading
Now we're right
question.
on the part.
So we did this thing. Do you think we did it?
One more. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? Not.
So I have to. I don't have the secrets, right? So
I
let's
know.
preface this.
Okay.
I heard you're working really hard to get one.
Yes, sure. I don't have the secrets. I have bought the amount of boxes that I can buy and will buy and purchase, and I still don't have the secrets. So that is the preface of, that is where my mind space is at. On the other hand, I was also, rightfully or wrongfully, I took it upon myself to defend the previous sets back when everyone was asking where the collectability was. I spoke up and said that, well, Genesis is a different style of game. You don't need to have the collectability because you need to have the multiplicity. You need to have multiples of each card. So that's the reason to buy more boxes, is to get to a number of cards you needed.
Yes.
And I definitely took some flack for that and definitely stood my ground and said, I don't think there needs to be this level of collectability. So, I mean, now we're here, and you guys and HCG has obviously listened to people and listened to what people have wanted. I don't like it, to be honest.
Nice.
I don't like the feeling of having to try to buy more boxes to try to get something that's so hard to get.
Yes.
That was always something that was different for Genesis for me. It was not like Magic or whatever, where you have to open a certain number of packs before you get one copy of the card you're trying to find or something like that. And I definitely bought into and it was different. It was like everything was localized very much in Canada, right? So 600 boxes were in Canada, so I could access those and I could get the cards that I wanted really easily. But now it's like everything's spread out, right? The game has changed, the game has grown, and I understand the draw to having something that you pull and it's so rare and it's so amazing. Like I've experienced that in other games. But yeah, I am not a huge fan of it, but I understand the reason that it's there.
So I'll put a little pressure on Will, because me and Will have a lot of deeper talks. Also, I've heard you talk praise about other games that do have all these things, though.
Yes.
So one of them, specifically Digimon, you talk about how you love that there's so many different foil styles, or I don't know what you got that.
So here's the thing with Digimon is that when you buy a box of Digimon, you are guaranteed to get 2 awesome pulls. And then 7 or 8 other pulls of, the next lower rarity. So you're getting 10 guaranteed pulls of something better than a rare.
Interesting.
Right? So you're always going to get at least 7, what they call super rares. And then you can get 2 cards of greater value, usually a secret or an alternate art. Now, the difference there is that your secret cards are alternate cards. They are a different style, they are a different artist, they are a different card. They even look different. They're maybe full arts, borderless, different foiling, textured. But we're talking about a Japanese company that's pushing out a bunch of product and has a printing in-house.
For sure. Yes.
So, I mean, in that way, if there was an alternate art, I could say, okay, I know I can pull 6 potential alternate arts if I go 3 boxes in. Right? If I don't pull it, I know that those alternate arts that I don't want can turn around and get traded in for the ones that I do. Because everyone's going to go after the alternate arts that they like.
So the perspective
It's
that
different.
I'm reading here is that you prefer essentially a bigger list of secrets. Like if secrets, right now we know there's 2 secrets.
Yeah.
Let's just say there was 6 secrets, but you only got 1 per box, is essentially like that. Is that what you're sort of saying? That's what the sort of Digimon.
Yeah, that's basically more or less. Yeah, like there might be more harder cards to pull, but you're going to get 1.
Gotcha.
which is it's different though, right? Because they're not now our secrets in Genesis are very, very unique.
Yes.
One of a kind prints, one of a kind arts. But at the same time, the next step down, right? Our epics and our rares functionally have to be the same.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because they can't, because of the number of cards you require in your deck, you can't have an epic level card functionally different.
Yeah.
Because that's going to skew between the people that have and the people that don't have, or the people who can't have. Sorry, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's yeah, that's my perspective. Anyways,
Yeah.
The other thing that was really interesting when you talked about the breakdown for Digimon. So I don't know a lot about Digimon. I haven't dug into the division and collectability. But one thing that was interesting is you talk about all this on the box level, right? Like, to get all these items, they're on a box level, where they're assuming then that to find fair distribution is buying a full booster box, right?
Yes, yes.
And
They are definitely in the buying a box or buying a case. That's their perspective.
Yeah.
You will get, potential for a full set in a case or something. Not quite, but yeah, they are on the box level, which actually means buying a single pack of Digimon is not necessarily the best way to go. Going in and buying 3 packs means you could hit all 3 rares from or secret rares from that box, or you could hit nothing.
Yeah.
Right? But buying the box, it's like you're guaranteed to hit something.
Yeah. Now, I will say that as a whole, the industry has changed, that now it's a lot more common for people to buy boxes. That's not a crazy thing. Buying cases is definitely a little bit more crazy, a little crazier, but we're still seeing that happening. But it's definitely a big change when it comes to looking at collectability and looking at accessibility for your game. When you're talking, are we expecting players to be buying a box, a pack, a box, or a case, right? And that's a really important question to have.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away anyone who did pull those cards and were excited. Like, I know Steve-O, he went through twice as many boxes as I did, and he went through and got both of them. I'm sure, other retailers have that opportunity because they will be opening that many more cards. And we've had people who have opened them personally, right? We know someone who was able to actually get both secrets out of 5 boxes. So that's extremely lucky, and they're extremely fortunate. And I don't want to take away anything from their experience. That's why I started the conversation with, I don't have them. So there is that bit of there's a bit of that wanting and desire to have them, because they are very beautiful cards. Now,
did Damian do both of them? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
As more product gets opened, we'll see more, right? But again, all of these decisions are your decisions to make as Haunted Castle Gaming. We also don't know how many secrets there are. Right? Have they all been pulled? Maybe, maybe not. We don't we can assume that over 5,000 boxes, probably there's more than 2. But we don't have the breakdowns of that, right? We know that an epic is 1 in 7, and we know that a foil is 1 in 17.
Yeah.
So
now, something I will say, because this can be public knowledge, is that some people did get foil uncut sheets. So the math is out there. There are people who bought all the uncut sheets. So for the people who get those, the opportunity to do the math is out there. So.
It's on because of the sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the reason why we announced the secrets just before the.
Because they are on the sheet.
Yeah. I mean, figured that by the time people got the
okay.
sheets, they will start telling other people about it. So we figured we'll get ahead of that conversation just a little bit there. I think a big thing for me is actually there's a few conversations I've had with different people about it, but one of them comes down to pay to play and pay to win as a implicit and explicit cost in gaming. TCGs, it's an implicit cost. as any TCG studio never actually states how much it requires to actually start playing the game at particular levels. There's no hard number out there, right?
Right.
But there's a
Yeah.
way to guesstimate it. And with Genesis, the community has told me several times that it comes down to 2 to 4 booster boxes, right? That's where you get enough of a collection that you can make a good deck out of that set, right? At least that's how it was with J2. So the big thing when it came to like collectability, in my perspective, was that not making them functionally unique. I learned that from Sky Storm Dragon, that functionally unique collectible cards were the bane of my existence. When Steve-O told me, what was it, Sky, he told me at one point, Sky, the 1 of 50s, Skies, were going for like $10 or $20. I was like, this is wrong. This is like, I got so mad at him, and he and I got into like such heated debates about this. Like, it's the only time where Steve-O and I actually like potentially yelled at each other, because, and that was an eye-opening moment for me. Was that functionally unique stuff shouldn't be put into Chase? It should be put into accessible side of the collectability of the game, and Chase should come in on something like alt art or special borders or stuff like that. And I think on one hand, I love the way the secrets look and the reactions of people when they pull them and see them.
Mm-hmm.
I got a message from someone, and they pull the secret and they're like, so what is this? And they were just like so giddy, and I was like, yeah, let's talk about that. So it was fun. But on the other side, I don't know if we've found the right balance between making a game that is fully collectible, like making a product that has that collectible fun chase side of it, but at the same time still making it accessible, playable for the community. I think there's still some tweaking that needs to be done. But
Yes.
Now, Alex mentioned at the top that the secrets were going to be continuing going on. Are they the same secrets going into the retail version, or is that's
a secret.
Undisclosed? That's a secret. Nice, Alex. Yeah, so it's one of those things, right? Like, it's like, I don't have a Sky alternate art, 1 of 4 copies of that card that exists, right? Technically, there's only 3 known copies because the 4th one is in someone's possession, possibly, but there's no contact with that person anymore, right? So we don't know what happened to that version. So, we're working with 3 copies of a card. So there's always going to be cards that you'll never have. It's just in the growth of this game, right? One of the reasons that I play the game is because the gameplay itself, right, is a step above, and the deck building is complex, and it makes me think over and over about what I want to include, how many do I want to include. All those things are really draw me into the love of how much I love this game. But it was before. It was like you said. It was like, you buy 4 boxes, you probably have what you need. You may have to go over to your local store and I need 3 extra copies of a Baruch or something for the deck, right? And that was the way it was. And now this is a change. This is a special edition or a special set or a special release at Kickstarter. But I found myself being drawn to buy more boxes because I wasn't opening those cards. So that was my choice.
Yeah.
Alex probably remembers this. There was actually a really long conversation Alex, Lionel, and I had one night, and we were out pretty late, and I talked about this very thing. It's like, we have to be aware of when we add chase, when we add collectability in a game, we could unconsciously have people spend money to pick up extra product, and we have to be aware of that decision and that impact that we're putting out there. And it was
but it's still my decision though. Like, I'm not saying that I was forced to or I felt like I needed to. I made the choice because I wanted to increase my odds.
Yes, you made that choice, but we gave you that option.
True.
Right? And that's something we need to be aware of. We need to own that decision that we put that into the game. And I think the secrets were fun because they were alt art. One of them being actually not playable at all, right?
Yes.
That's a really interesting thing to put in there, because it means that if you want to play an Iblis deck, right, you have a deck it's funny because how this whole entire video started today. But if you want to play Iblis competitively, you can get a champion card of Iblis really easily from a lot of different communities. You don't have to get the secret version to play with it. But if you get
it doesn't change gameplay at all. It doesn't affect anything. It affects my collector side, not my player side. Right?
Yes, yeah. So, and I think that's one thing that we've done that I am proud of, is that when it comes to how we are having the conversations with those two different, pretty polar ends of the community, how do we talk to both of them? How does our product talk to both of them? That's one thing that I'm grateful that we're having those conversations. Sorry, I'm rambling.
So there's the addition of secrets and this Kickstarter. How does your perspective, is the Kickstarter and secrets more for the newer players, or is it more for the older players? Are the newer players coming in expecting something to go after, and that's why, maybe this is the time to do it? Or is it, the older players, we see them, we hear them, they were doing this for them?
So, my perspective, Alex is pondering. I don't know. Do you want to?
Go ahead, Sid. Go.
Okay.
You say yours.
So my perspective, I think the secrets, like many things that we've done in this game, the end decision has always come down to the team wanting to put something into the product, into the game, that is a love letter to the game itself in different ways. Like the Discord Rabbit, we had a lot of conversations of what we're going to do with this artwork. And it just felt right putting it on a card, making it accessible for the community, and getting them excited when they see it, especially for the people who were there during those parties. The Iblis artwork was Demion's opportunity to take one of the champions and go all out on it. Do something that he could push his skill sets and show his love for this world that he's helping create. It's a lot of the promos were the same way. Some of them that have the weirdest like print run sizes. I want to say some of the early like Future League promos that only had like 8 copies made. A lot of those, the story behind it was, this is how we show our appreciation to these people. This is how we show our love for the game. Not a, this is what this is going to represent in the future, but a conversation of, this is where we are today, and this is how we want to show you, the players, the community, everyone who's helped make this game a reality. This is how we show you how much we appreciate you. Right? That's my perspective on it. So going to the question of like, is this for the new or for the old? It's for the people who are here today. I think it's for the people who are opening up that product to show them this product is more than just a game. It is also it's a passion project. It's been a passion project since day one, and it still is something we're deeply passionate about. That's my perspective of it. And then Alex can come in with his "I said you're an idiot" type of remark.
No, I don't think I have a better response to add. I actually do like your response. I think it goes along with the growth of the game, and like you're saying, it's something for right now. Like you said, I also agree that it's not necessarily perfect yet. I think we're going to still be working on it, as we always do. We try new things. Whenever we make a new product, we try to improve the game. This is one of those steps, and it's good to hear the opinion like you will, because the step that I do actually agree with you is that it might be too hard to get a secret right now. Is currently where I'm feeling it's at.
Yeah, we're only 2 weeks in or whatever, right? 3 weeks in. We're unsure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you consider when you were making decisions, are decisions made specifically directed towards new players, or are there decisions made directly for older players? And something to think about would be like, let's take OP for example. I know we're changing topics a little bit, but just for a moment, right? The OP cards for older players we have all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So newer players come to play events and they get OP cards. They get access to something that they don't have. Older players, or long-term players, are coming in to play OP because they're supporting the store, right? What do the older players get outside of just because they love the game, they want to play the game? There's a space to play the game, but the OP really doesn't do anything for those older players.
I can see what you're saying here. I would say OP is definitely more supportive of the newer player. The only exception is if the older player is a collector and wants to get all the foils of the OP.
Sure, there is that is
the
another
only
level of
exception.
you play the game, a little bit more collectability, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's for sure. That's definitely there. But just sort of that idea of like, is it a new player initiative or is it an old player initiative? Are there initiatives for both players, right? Because I would say that over this past year, HCG has done a fantastic job of gearing towards newer players, onboarding them into the game. J2 is a fantastic product for that. It will continue to sell. The stores will always want to have some J2 on hand just to get a new player into the game. Starter decks, it was an option to get in, but most people seem to be jumping into the booster boxes, at least from the newer players that I personally see or have talked to. And then you have Origins, right? And then Origins, again, so from my perspective, so I've been playing since basically end of 2018 for a while, mostly in 2019 when I really started getting serious, is the sorry, I lost my train of thought. So we had almost, I'm gonna round up, I guess, 2 years between the last. These are the brand new cards, right? These are these are new cards for us, and now that we have them, well, I'll throw out the question to you because this is open discussion. This is philosophical. We're talking about this. Will we have? Hopefully, we don't have to wait the same amount of time that we did for Origins as we will for the next set. And part of that is there was delays, there was a pandemic, there was a whole bunch of things that happened there.
Yes.
But is the momentum of the Kickstarter going to be able to continue through?
Good question. I can only speak from my end is that I have not stopped.
Yeah.
So what set are you on, Alex?
That's actually a much more complex question than you think it is. So I think actually it's at every time you were talking about new players, old players, what decisions were going into it. I just remember something that I used to tell the game design team, and I think we still say it every now and then, which is we do what is right for the game. And sometimes there is a focus on we're doing these things for the new players because that's what will bring in the growth. There are other decisions that are made for the entrenched players because they're the ones who are going to push particular decisions forward. Things like what are we doing for Future League? What are we doing for competitive player? That's a lot more for entrenched players. The outline of J2, that was a lot more for new players. There were a lot of decisions that were did in different ways. So I don't think things necessarily get lumped into those. I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's binary. At the end of the day,
it's not black or white. It's sort of a mix,
we make decisions that we think is going to be best for the game and best for the for its growth, its success, right? And it's hard. It is hard to make some of those decisions at times. I remember when we first announced J2, I had some stores reach out to me and being like, no, just reprint Welcome to Jalar and Raise. Don't create this new thing. And it took me a while to talk to them and get them to understand why we're making this change. It was the best decision for the game. And all those people who did come at me, approach me about that, they've thus change their mind, right? They look at J2 and they're like, no, that was the right decision. That did help my community grow a lot more. It's just, yeah, it's difficult, especially since we are so young still, and we're still learning a lot about how communities react to things, how players react to things, what type of players we even have, and what their desires are for the product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more as those communities build up, right? Like, I mean, there's some other content creators who are talking about Genesis, and they're talking about how their player base just loves how casual the game is. And I was sort of like, whoa, I haven't thought of Genesis casually in a very, very long time outside of, some Future League events and stuff where you're just sort of throwing some stuff together to see what happens. But for them, it is a casual game. They come in, they can just play. It's easy to pick up. It's, they're not really worried about playing the best cards or optimizing the numbers down to the specifics for, percentage pulls and stuff. So as the game grows, we will see more of that, and we'll see more communities develop in different ways. But at the same time, I think it's also good to remember that even when things are going well and things are progressing well, right, things can also turn, right, and the community can turn around, and we've seen that very recently with a number of things. The decisions that get made when, from my perspective, is when potentially older established players they feel they're less heard, or they feel that they're less directed towards, or their desire for the game is not being the focus point. You can sometimes have that generation turn, or have a sort of a mini, basically, we're done or whatever type of situation. So I think it's always good to hear from your perspective, and your being HCG, that both of those are in consideration, and they are blending. You're trying to do things for the two. Whether or not you like it to be two different pools, there are two different pools, and there always will be. There will always be new players, and there will always be established players.
One thing I'll say is, like, it's really interesting because each member of our executive team, they are focused on very different, or they interact with very different segments of the community of large, and it gives us different decisions when we are it gives us different inputs when we're making decisions, and I think that helps at times. It doesn't mean we always will make the right decision, but at least we're trying our best to listen to the different avenues. And remember, like, there are just things we've done that I wish we had focused in a different community about. Especially, like, one of the things I think about is the organized play kit. And we were hoping that those would circulate a lot more than they have. Where there's a lot of entrenched... The thing is that it's the entrenched communities that run organized play events, right? New communities aren't running them yet, but it's the new communities that need those cards. So it becomes this weird polar activity that's happening. The entrenched communities, like Heads or Tails, like Dragon World, you've been playing for so long, you have all the cards that are in organized play. But like a brand new store like Compete Sports right now is just starting to spin up their Genesis community and rolling with it. They need those cards in organized play packs, but they haven't hosted an organized play event yet. So they actually know they have hosted one, but at the same time, like, they're just seeing those cards for the first time. Or like I saw someone open up an organized play pack and was like, "Oh, look at Primordial Force! This thing's so crazy!" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, to new players, that thing is crazy." It's a fun card.
And that gets into that sort of meta, right? Different communities will have different metas, and there's some metas, there's some through lines for meta that always will people will navigate to Nubia, will navigate to Idris, right? It will be interesting to see who gets looked at for Origins, a couple of months down the road, or after the championship, whatever that looks like. So it's an interesting conversation. It's definitely there's a lot of things that I think about too, and it's always good to sort of pose some questions and wrestle with some difficult things as well. So
Yeah.
do
Awesome.
we have any announcements?
I want to give a shout out to the community. One person asked the question, and 8 of them answered. I was very proud of them.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
I haven't been following your stream at all. Sorry. If
Okay,
Jeff
so
made
that
any
Will
comments,
hates you all.
if
I
Jeff
love
made
you
any
all.
comments about me, then okay, I'll take it on the cheap.
He just said you're Joey Wheeler. That's about it.
Who?
From
You're Joey
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Wheeler.
Oh, is he the really
yeah.
over the top American one?
No. He's the psychic who
Boss.
had Red Eyes Black Dragon.
Psychic.
He was
Not a
the
psychic,
Yugi
yeah.
sidekick. Come on, they were all Yugi.
Sidekick. I thought you
Sidekick.
just said psychic.
Oh no.
Anyway,
Maybe
Yeah.
I am. Maybe not.
Yeah, announcements. We're at Alex will be at Gen Con this weekend. That'll be a thing.
Yep.
So
Something popped up on my screen. Are we allowed to announce that too?
that-
It got pinged to the fan server.
yeah, if it's in the fan server, then we can announce it. The word's out there. I don't know what it is.
Yes, go ahead, Will.
Oh,
Yeah.
am I doing it now?
Yeah.
You're doing it. You
Apparently,
brought
you're
it
doing it now.
At HCG Pings, Genesis is thrilled to welcome MTG Nerd Girl to Gen Con. She'll be challenging champions at our event table and handing out her exclusive custom alt art to sheer, embracing the awesomeness that is both her and her love for corgis.
Yes.
Supplies are limited. Make sure you stop by Friday and Sunday at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So everyone who's gonna be at Gen Con, special promo. And then there's also the pre-qualifier that's happening with the Alim circuit promo as part of that.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a promo for
yeah.
this one too.
That one's
Okay.
the Alim circuit promo. And then in 2 weeks we have the Pacific Northwest circuit. That's happening in Gig Harbor, Washington State, and that one, I'm pretty sure the promo is bacteriophage.
Oh, I thought you were going to announce something else.
Was there something else I was supposed to announce?
Well, I just you're gearing up for it. That one is going to be, and I thought you were going to say, Origins Legal. But
Yes, it is.
Oh,
we made that
it
announcement.
is!
Yes, we made that announcement today. Today
Oh,
had a lot of drops
today?
of announcements. Yeah.
I
So
must have missed it.
yeah, that got announced at 5, I think. Origins will be tournament legal at Pacific Northwest. That'll be the first circuit that has Origins competitive. Steve-O's very excited about that one. So that one's gonna be really cool because we're pretty sure Leslie's gonna be there for that, and she'll be signing the Angel posters. So that'll be
Nice.
really cool.
Oh, my poster.
Yeah,
I gave Steve-O a stack of cards like with your hand, like this thick.
Yeah.
I'm like,
she has to
as
sign
long
all
as she
these.
doesn't charge per signature, just get all these done.
I'm gonna totally tell her to charge per signature. No, she's
I
a
actually
wonderful-
didn't go with it. Oh, I did go with the angel. I went with the appreciation angel, like the full art one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's full art. I actually went with the alpha bolt shot to get the signature on. So
Nice.
I happen to have 2 of those, but
Yeah, I have an alpha bullshot signed as well.
he was like, "You're not going to get the alpha angel sign?" It's like, no.